What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with reactions to the classics. Today we got a reaction to Coldplay and their debut album, Parachutes, brought to us by a friend, longtime supporter and patron of the channel, Ian. Thank you, Ian. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you'd like to support us in any way, check out the Patreon link below. The Patreon link on the end screen. Put up videos every single day. We couldn't do it without the patrons. So Ian says this month it is Parachutes, a debut album by Coldplay. I could hardly believe you haven't reacted to this one. We don't really have any Coldplay up. We had one album up that we did in the infancy of the channel and ended up getting blocked because we didn't really know what we were doing as far as what we could put up and what we couldn't. But it was not this album. I actually did not do it. Trey did it with one of his friends. But I like Coldplay. I definitely like Coldplay. I've never heard this album. I only know one song. I think I only know one song. I mean, I know that one song, but I may know more. But let's get a little background on this before we jump in. Parachutes is a debut studio album. It was released in July of 2000 by Parlophone in the UK. It was released in November of 2000 in the US. So 5 months later. It's produced by the band and British record producer Ken Nelson, except for one track, High Speed, which was produced by Chris Allison. I won't go into that story, but they ended up switching from Chris to Ken. The album was a commercial success. It was met with positive reviews. Upon its release, it quickly reached #1 in the UK and has since been certified 9 times platinum in the UK. In the US, it only peaked at 51. I was surprised by the lack of chart success of this album and the singles in the US, but eventually was certified double platinum in the US. It won the Grammy Award for Best Alternative Music Album in 2002 and the British Album of the Year Award at the 2001 Brit Awards. In 2022, it was named as the 10th most successful debut album in UK chart history. 2013, NME ranked it number 272 on their 500 greatest albums of all time. With nearly 2.7 million units sold in the UK, it is the 22nd best-selling album of the 21st century in the UK and the 45th best-selling album of all time in the UK. That is mind-boggling when you consider how many great albums have come out in the 60s and the 70s, especially when album sales were out of sight. The band began production on this in late 1999 after producing and releasing the Blue Room EP with British record producer, the aforementioned Chris Allison. He was asked to assist with production in the band's music direction, which was desired by both the band and the A&R department. But then it got switched over, right? It got switched over to Ken Nelson. A few critics have suggested the album's commercial success was due in part to a portion of Radiohead's audience being alienated by the band's experimental and more electronic influenced Kid A album. Look, I like Radiohead a lot, but I don't like Kid A at all. I know most of you are on the opposite side of that. I get it. This album was all over the place as far as critical. Metacritic, which takes all the critics' reviews, puts them in one formula. 100 is a perfect score. No one's ever gotten 100. It got a 72. It was a 5.3 out of 10 on Pitchfork, but a 9 out of 10 on NME, who named it the 6th best album of 2000. Rolling Stone in 2011 said the 100 best albums of the 2000s ranked this at 73. Now, take this with a grain of salt because this was a long time ago, but despite the album's success, in a 2006 interview, Chris Martin said that the band doesn't like it. He also commented that they look beyond. He said, quote, "We know that's terrible music, and we always try to think about what we can do next." Now, it has all this success and all this critical success. So always take what the artist says. It depends on their mood at the time, what's going on, right? But I thought I would share that because some of you probably know that quote and are going to share it in the comments. I'll save you time. All tracks are written by the band, Guy Berryman, Johnny Buckland, Will Champion, and Chris Martin. So if you haven't been with us before, the music will not be in the video, but it will be in a Vimeo link below. So go follow along if you want to hear it. If you already know it, stick around and you'll see each song. We'll start off with the leadoff track, Don't Panic. Ian gives a little comment for each one of the songs, and he gives a grade each song, so I always enjoy that. He says, nice low-key opener, has all the Coldplay hallmarks with the Chris Martin doleful vocals and echoey guitar. Quirky video, and we're going to watch the video, with a young-looking band with its environmentalist stop-frame animation and CGI. The final single to be released from the album, we'll get to that in a second, and the weakest single, but still a good song, he gives it a 7.5 out of 10. This was originally titled Panic. It's the earliest known version of the song, existed in 1998, performed live during the band's first gig in that same year. It has a different melody and was included in the band's third LP, The Blue Room. The track was reproduced by Coldplay and British producer Ken Nelson for this album. Following their successful releases in 2000, Coldplay and the record label Parlophone thought there was enough exposure of the album in the UK. Thus, the decision of releasing a fourth single would be for regions that had not been overdosed by hit singles Yellow and Trouble. They settled on Don't Panic, which at the time was an audience favorite. It was released in some European regions, only received a promo edition release in the UK. The lyrics are supposedly an account of a, quote, slightly disastrous evening Chris had spent entertaining a young lady called Alice Hill. Guitarist Johnny Buckland recorded twice his overdubbed guitars and used parts of the two during the mixing. They subtly used the acoustic, drums, and bass, and also a pump organ. Buckland also provides vocals for the second verse of the song. Like their other songs, Coldplay has refused several offers to use Don't Panic for promotional tools. In 2004, they rejected a multi-million euro offer from Diet Coke and Gap to use Don't Panic and another song we're going to get to, Trouble. The band then asked manager Phil Harvey to not refer them to such offers because, quote, a discussion might lead to compromise. It has, however, been used in many movies and TV shows. All right, I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Ian. All right, Don't Panic. I was waiting at the end of that video when they were cutting out that it was going to be a false stop there. But, the song's the song itself is only like 2 minutes, 16 seconds long, as you see below in the Spotify bar. But the video is a little over 3 minutes. It didn't seem like it had been 3 minutes, but I know Ian mentioned, but wow, man, they look young. Chris looks particularly young, but nice chilled out song, protect our world, appreciate our world, that kind of stuff, but a good chilled out way to start this. All right, next up you see it below, Shiver. We're actually going to watch the video for this too. Ian says the 4:3 aspect ratio in the video betrays its age. It's the first single released from Parachutes. Barely noticed even in the UK, despite the marketing and powerful phone only made it to 35. Gives it an 8.5 out of 10. I found a decent amount of stuff here. It contains influences attributed to American singer-songwriter Jeff Buckley. He was fantastic. We have some reviews of his stuff up anyway. It's one album, but whom Coldplay's early influences were drawn from. The song's lyrics are a reference to Martin's unrequited love, and as Ian mentioned, it's released as the lead single in the UK and the second in the US following the single Yellow. It's written 2 years before its release. Martin allegedly wrote the song while thinking of Australian singer-songwriter Natalie Imbruglia, the woman with whom he was linked at the time, and I think she had the big hit Torn, if memory serves me right. But he later denied it was about her, because we always deny those things. Other accounts have claimed that Imbruglia was indeed not Martin's inspiration for writing the song. Instead, he appeared to have been inspired by girlfriends in his teenage years and early 20s. Martin actually wrote the song on a glum day, he said, when he felt he could never find the right woman for him. He described it as something of a, quote, stalking song, admitting he wrote it for a specific woman. In addition, Martin wrote the song while listening to music of Jeff Buckley and has claimed it's their most blatant rip-off song. As with most songs on the album, producer Ken Nelson used an analog desk in recording Shiver. The guitar was redubbed in search of perfection, while Martin detuned his guitar to easily generate complex chord sequences. Martin's vocals were recorded in more than one take, but the band chose the one with a single take, so a one shot on a 5-minute song. Always difficult. All right, Shiver. I'd never heard that. I really don't think I've heard any of these songs except for one that we're going to get to soon. They really look youthful here. Chris with all that hair, he really looks youthful here, man. It's just crazy to see. But when he hits that chorus, right, that Shiver, the way he sings it, it's a little sneak peek into his abilities and what we're going to get later on throughout the career. But the Shiver is she's cold shouldering him, I think, at the end of the day. And, he's kind of telling her he's going to be there day or night. So I could kind of see how it's a stalking. And I can see the way they build and the way the guitar and bass work works, how it does sound very similar to Buckley. We got a reaction up of Grace, his only album released during his lifetime. You can go check that out if you want. But I definitely hear the influence here. Now, maybe I hear it because I knew it, because they talked about it. But a good song. Next up, we have Spies. Ian says, distinctive Chris Martin vocals grab your attention. One of the longer tracks on the album. Gives it a 7.5 out of 10. I found it was inspired by the band's love of the James Bond films. I love those as well. And longtime composer John Barry. The World Is Not Enough was also in production at the time of the song's writing of a Bond film, if you don't know. Spies, really good song. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the tone of it all, the atmosphere. I think it's about his own paranoia, right? Like he's looking around, the spies can't touch us, but they're around every corner. And, kind of the paranoia, maybe the anxiety that we all go through at times. So there's an interesting way to package that up by calling it Spies. Pretty clever. Next up, we have Sparks. We got a lot of one-word title songs on here. It says chill track that I find relaxing, an 8 out of 10. I found this is about a person who tries to get someone to remember them again. All right, Sparks, much more laid back, obviously. That acoustic melody on there was really nice. I see why Ian said it's a relaxing tune. Just telling her, look, I screwed up basically, but I'm always going to be here for you. And I thought you were the one. That's where the sparks, I saw sparks basically. So clever song. And by far the second most streamed song on here, even though it wasn't a single. So I'm going to guess, obviously it's probably recognized as being a really good song later on, but it was probably in a TV show, movie, that sort of thing to really get it over. All right, well, we're to that song, the song I know on here, Yellow. We're going to watch the video for it. Ian says, a great song and breakthrough single. Low-key beach walking video fits a melancholic feel to this masterpiece of a song. Over 900 million plays on YouTube, making it one of the most played videos of all music videos of all time. Super nostalgic song for me, Ian says. I recall buying this as a CD single. It brings back memories of a tumultuous relationship, both good and bad, and has a whole load of emotions and feelings rolled up into it, meaning I can't listen to the song without reliving those times. Just one of those life soundtrack songs for me, a perfect 10 out of 10 for Ian, and he does not give those like I can remember just a few songs I've ever done for him that he gave a 10 out of 10. It is amazing with music. I got songs like that too, where there's a few songs that bring me back to a relationship and a time and place, right? And you just cannot listen to them without your mind, not only your mind, but your emotions going there. It's amazing. Music is amazing. All right, some facts on this, and I got a decent amount because this is the song that, as Ian said, this is their breakthrough song. This is what put Coldplay on the map. Second single in the UK went to 4. Lead single in the US. Now, this shocked me. It only went to number 48 in the US. And I mean, I'm an old guy. I was alive during this time and I would have sworn this song went higher than that. Was a breakthrough hit internationally. It was written in Rockfield's Quadrangle studio near Monmouth in South Wales, where Coldplay began working on their debut album. One night after finishing recording Shiver, which we've already heard, the band took a break and went out of the studio. Outside, there were a few lights and the stars in the sky were visible and just amazing, according to the song's co-producer, Ken Nelson. He told the band to look at the stars, which they did. Chris Martin was inspired by the sight, and the song's main melody, consisting of a chord pattern, popped into his head. At first, he did not take it seriously and sang the tune to the rest of the band in, quote, he said, his worst Neil Young impersonation voice. Martin has said the song had the word stars, and that seemed like a word you should sing in a Neil Young voice. Not long after, despite not taking the song seriously, Chris's idea worked out when he had developed the tempo of the verse. When guitarist Johnny Buckland started playing it and supplemented it with his own ideas, they had created the riff, and, quote, it sort of got a bit heavier. While composing the lyrics, Chris could not find the right words. He was thinking of a specific word which he deemed a missing keyword in the lyrics to fit the song's concept. He looked around the studio and saw the yellow pages. The lyrics progressed from there, with the band collaborating. Bassist Guy Berryman came up with the opening on Look at the Stars. That night, having quickly composed the song, they recorded it. Now, years later, Chris Martin was on the Howard Stern show, and he said that the word yellow has absolutely no meaning whatsoever. And while writing the rest of the song, he tried his best to change yellow to something else, since every lyric before yellow made no sense, but in the end, the word yellow just sounded right. So I've seen all kinds of breakdowns. We don't have to worry about it. It doesn't mean anything. And you find that actually a lot in popular songs. Martin also told Stern that through the years, depending on the attitude and manner of whoever interviews him, he would make up some story about a song or album titles just to move on to the next question. So keep that in mind when you're listening to Chris. He applauded Stern, saying, I like you, Howard. So that's the first time I've ever told anyone the truth behind Yellow. Or was he just telling another story, right? When asked what the song was about a particular girl, Chris said, it's about all girls. So much acclaim for this song. It won Best Single at the 2001 NME Awards and got nominated at the 2002 Grammys for Best Rock Song and Best Rock Performance by a Duo or Vocal. Billboard in 2021 on the 100 Greatest Songs of 2001 put it at 35. NME, the Best Singles of 2000, put it at number 2. Pitchfork in 2009, the top 500 tracks of the 2000s put it at 263. Rolling Stone in 2011, 100 Best Songs of the 2000 at number 34. So lots and lots of acclaim. We're going to watch that iconic video. We got it, right? All right. I mean, if you're watching this video, then you obviously know this song is fantastic. It is just a great song. And the video is iconic. They were originally going to have the whole band in the video, but Will Champion, the drummer, his mother had died and her funeral was that day, so they decided it was just going to be Chris. And I've got a little bit on this video because you got to know a little bit about it, right? It was shot at 50 frames per second, twice the regular speed. So at the shoot, Chris had to sing the song at double speed so the audio and visual content would be in sync. That happens a lot in videos, but it's really difficult to do. And it's really difficult to do in this environment, right, where you're walking and doing it. The final product is slowed to 25 frames per second, given the slow motion effect of the video. The transition of the video from night to day was achieved during the telescene process. During the transfer from film to videotape, an operator had to manually adjust from a monochromatic grainy look at the start to a warm, colorful, and bright look at the end of the video. So, yeah. And the look was inspired by the night swimming scenes in the movie Jaws. So, I mean, the video itself is iconic, even though it's super simple, right? It's just fantastic. And this song is great. Next up, we have the song Trouble. Ian says another great song. And the next single just made it to the top 10 in the UK. Parlophone rolled out the cash to create a stylish video, which curiously doesn't feel too dated, despite the CGI being almost a quarter of a century old. We're going to watch that video. Ian gives this song a 9 out of 10. Found as their third single, reaching number 10 in the UK. And didn't chart in the US. What was wrong with the US? According to Chris, the song's writing was inspired by his own behavior. He recalls, quote, "There were some bad things going in our band. The song is about behaving badly towards somebody you really love, and I was certainly doing that to some members of the band." He added that he supposes it's about time to stop acting like a, quote, knobhead. All right, trouble. And he's basically telling this girl, I never meant to cause any trouble for you. I'm kind of tangled up in this spider web that is me. A very creative video. I mean, Ian's exactly right. It does not look dated. Very creative. And when this first started, I thought I knew this piano melody, right? I know this song. And maybe I've heard it once, but I don't think so. I think it just sounds familiar, right? It's got that Coldplay familiar sound. But, you know, they're not going to knock it out of the park on the instruments on so far, because they're not pushing themselves to. I mean, they play them very well, but like nothing stands out. But what they are really good at is building that melody, right? Just fantastic. All right, next up we have the title track, sort of, right? Ian says title track, a curious snippet of a song that feels like it's going to be an instrumental, but then it isn't. Difficult to rate as it's so short. He gives it a 7 out of 10. I found it's more of an interlude than a fully fledged song. It's only 46 seconds, so we'll make this one quick on the real. He might have not have been telling the truth, but I would imagine like this is just a snippet of a song that he wrote, and he liked the verse here. And I mean, it's a good verse. It's basically he's going to be with her no matter what, whatever happens, rain or shine. But, you know, he probably just never finished the song. They just thought they'd throw it on. You don't find these interludes very often having lyrics. I mean, the Beatles did it obviously in Let It Be, but you don't find it very often. They're usually just instrumentations, but I mean, it's fine for what it is. We got 3 songs left. We got High Speed. Ian says the song opens with an REM feel before the echoey trademark guitar and vocals kick in. Decent song, he says 7.5 out of 10. It talks about a relationship that is unsustainable. It's the only song on the album recorded in the 90s and not produced by Ken Nelson. This is the one that was produced by Chris Allison, the previous producer. All right, High Speed. It's about a relationship. I think at first he thinks it's going to be fine. It's moving too fast. It's going to be fine. But then I think as the song progresses, maybe he's figuring out it might not be fine. But, you know, it's just a typical Coldplay song. It's fine. It's not great. It's fine. It fits in on the album. All right, we got 2 songs left, or 2.5, depending on how you want to look at it. We got We Never Change. Ian says a generic Coldplay song. Not bad, but lacks a hook to lift it above average. 7 out of 10. All right, We Never Change. Just a commentary on how we never change, right? We talk about all the things we never change. Chris is taking it in the dynamic of a relationship, but he's also taking it on a broader level. And, you know, he says, we never change, do we? No, we never learn, do we? So I want to live in a wooden house, not a glass house where we can see. I want to live in a wooden house where I can be protected and maybe isolated, right? And in the post-chorus says, so I want to live in a wooden house where making more friends would be easy. Oh, and I don't have a soul to save, yes, and I sin every single day. So he doesn't think he can be saved, but he wants to be here for this person he's in the relationship with. We're up to our final track, Everything's Not Lost. There's also a hidden song in here because why not, right? We had to do it back in the day, which is called The Life is for Living. Ian says nice final track, and then within fashionable hidden extra to round things off. The hidden extra could have been left out, but it's not bad for a hidden track. He gives it a 7.5 out of 10. Let's finish this thing off. All right, the hidden track on their Life is for Living was good. It was fine. I don't think it needed to be on there, but it wasn't bad or anything. They could have probably expanded that to a full song, and it had the start of something good. Everything's Not Lost is a really good song in the fact that, you know, Chris is just talking about how he thinks everything is he's a pessimist. When I counted up my demons, saw there was one for every day, but with the good ones on my shoulders, I drove the other ones away. So the chorus, so if you ever feel neglected, and if you think that all is lost, I'll be counting up my demons, hoping everything's not lost. And he talked about this in an interview. He explained, he said, it's a chain gang song. People who write happy songs are often unhappy. Bill Withers, who was fantastic, by the way, knew every day wasn't a lovely day, but everything's not lost is the message of the album. I do exactly what the song does. Think everything's terrible. What's the point? And then think the point is, it's not that terrible. You've got to keep going. The thing is, our lives are great. We've had a funny old time, but the 4 of us are closer than we've ever been. Nobody's going to knock us down. As I'm filming this in 2023, these boys are still together and have ruled the music scene for 20 plus years since this. I mean, one of the most popular artists and successful artists in the world. So some foresight on there from Chris. All right, now we're going to get to my favorite tracks. Honorable mention, Shiver, Spies, Trouble, and this last track, Everything's Not Lost. faves are going to be Sparks. And yes, it's cliche, but it has to be done. And Yellow, because Yellow is just one of the best songs of that decade. Like, just fantastic. Now we get to my overall score. But first, let's see Ian's final thoughts. He says, a fantastic debut album. 9 consistent songs plus 2 half songs. Short and to the point. One of Coldplay's best, though I think they improved on it in several ways in following albums that can hold its head high with the likes of Milo Xyloto, I never know how to say that, Rush of Blood, and Viva La Vida. He gives it an 8.25 out of 10. And Rush of Blood is the other one that we did on this channel trade. A friend of his that got knocked down. Someday I'd like to do more of their albums for sure. I'm really glad Ian brought me this one. But like I said, I've never heard this album. It's the first time I ever heard this album. I didn't know any song except for Yellow. I think shout out to Johnny Buckland on the electric guitar. He does piano on one of the tracks on Sparks. And then Guy Berryman on bass. The bass work with the sound that Coldplay has is not going to take center stage, at least on this album. It's not, but it's got to be there, and it does a really good job. And Will Champion on the drums is also kind of that rhythm section is not going to overwhelm you, but it's not meant to. So let's get over to the album and the overall score. I like this album. I think it's totally consistent. It has that Coldplay sound and a really good debut, right? They know who they are, and they don't try to venture out from that. And I think there's a wisdom to that, especially when they were starting out. So for me, very consistent. It's a 7.5 for me. That's a good score, right? There wasn't any song on here I did not like. And Yellow is absolutely tremendous. So it really raises the ceiling on this thing. But the start of something fantastic for Coldplay. So let me know what you think of this down below. What grade do you give it? Where do you rank it in their discography? What other albums, if you could pick one, what other albums should I check out of Coldplay? Thanks to Ian for bringing this one. Until next time, guys, I will see you.